We've got a bunch to get to, but we're going to start with a new segment we're doing called the Debunk. And we're doing that with Crew. I think we can officially call him Crew. His name is Ben Burgis. He was the main guest on the show a couple weeks ago. He's also recently the guest on the David Feldman Show. I'm a big fan of that podcast and all things Feldman as well. And Ben, of course, teaches logic at Rutgers University, logic and philosophy. And his forthcoming book, which should be available for pre-order in May, and I have a copy of, and I have been enjoying. I mean, I read it as a PDF, and now I'm reading it in physical form. It's helping me. It's like going to the gym for combat against the right. And also techno dweebs. Give them an argument. Logic for the left. Ben Burgis. We should have gotten a debunk music segment for you, but that's okay. Let's what would be a good one? Let's do this. Can I have my board up? Welcome, Ben.
Hello.
Nice to be here.
Wait, does Ben hear that? Make sure.
Hello.
Ben... One more time.
Hello.
Dennis Prager welcomes you.
Wow.
Hello.
I'm working on my Dennis Prager soundboard, so far it only has one thing.
It's the only actual human joy Dennis Prager has ever produced in his life is the ironic joy he's giving us with that bargain basement knockoff gay voice. Ben Burgis, we have an argument to debunk today, and that is the classical libertarian chestnut that taxation is theft. Why is it not theft?
Excellent. I think judging by the reaction on Twitter, this is something that people really wanted to hear, and I think that's probably the case for a couple reasons. One of them is just that if you've ever argued about politics on social media, sooner or later, inevitably you are going to run into basement-dwelling libertarians who are obsessed with this argument that taxation is wrong because it's theft. But also, I think more substantively, it's the place where a lot of arguments with right-wingers kind of hit a wall. So even if you convince somebody that if we had Medicare for all, that the amount of taxes that most people would be paying for that would be less than what they're paying right now for private insurance premiums, they don't care because they think, well, okay, if you're paying private insurance premiums, that's voluntary. You're choosing to do that, right? You could just die, for not having health insurance. But if taxation, that's force, that's the government, making you do it, right? They're taking your money. And that's an idea that even though it kind of originates with these hardcore purist libertarians, really filters down into regular conservatism, right? I'm in my late 30s, so I can remember the 2004 election when one of the Bush-Cheney campaign billboards, one of the big ones was that said, it's your money, right? And so It's the same idea, that it's your money and the government is taking it from you. And I think a lot of times leftists and progressives, socialists don't really know what to make of this argument. They kind of say, well, all right, maybe there's some other thing that I care about that, I think that there are these important needs served by social programs would be financed by redistributive taxation. Or if you're a socialist, I think there are all these good reasons to actually nationalize things. But I don't know what to say about this argument that that's bad, it's coercive, it's taking stuff from people, other than maybe that something else is more important. And that's not a bad response in itself. It's not that it's, in fact, I think it's often a mark of people with a really simplistic understanding of how moral and political reasoning works, that they think that it's never acceptable to weigh competing values against each other. Of course, that's fine.
Hello.
But I think that that as we really get into it and think about it, this isn't even an argument that should be taken seriously on that level. It's not even that, okay, there are these good things that would be served by redistributive taxation and social programs, but on the other hand, it's coercive, it's taking stuff from people, and so like that's bad, and we have to weigh the good against the bad, because I think the entire idea there rests on logical fallacy. So what you're doing when you say taxation is wrong because it's theft is begging the questions. Begging the question, this is a term that pundits always misuse, but it just means assuming the very thing you should be trying to prove. And so, for example, if you say abortion is wrong because it's murder, right? Or for that matter, if you say the death penalty is wrong because it's murder, you're assuming the wrongness. You're building the conclusion into the premise. Murder means wrong killing. That's why we don't talk about murdering people in self-defense. So similarly, when you say that taxation is wrong because it's theft, well, theft doesn't just mean taking something from somebody who happens to be in possession of it. If that's what theft meant, then when somebody like actually steals your TV and then you call in a police report and the cops come and get the TV back, when the cops come and take the TV back, that would be theft because, hey, there are armed men who are going to take it away by force from the people currently in possession of it to give it to somebody else. But of course, the reason nobody thinks that's theft is because what theft means is taking something from somebody who's entitled to it, and not just legally entitled, but morally entitled. That if, in the early phases of Nazi rule in Germany, when there was lots of property that was taken away from German Jews and given to Gentiles, nobody, at least nobody outside of the alt-right, would describe a Jewish person who resisted this process or took back their property as stealing it, right? Because theft means
right.
taking it from somebody who is entitled to it, morally entitled to it. So what's really doing the work here, by the way, just quick shout out, Matt Brunig of the People's Policy Project has written a lot of really good stuff about this. He presents the argument in a slightly different way than I am, but it's very much worth checking out. That what's really doing all the work when people make this taxation theft argument, that if it's not just a completely vacuous argument, taxation is wrong because it's theft, and it's theft because it's wrong, right? It's theft because people don't really, the people taking it, right? If money is being taken from wealthy business owners to pay for school lunches in the inner city, well, it's only theft if the wealthy business owners have a morally better claim on it than the poor kids in the inner city. And what's really doing the work there behind that claim, if it's not just totally vacuous, is a certain kind of theory of what a just distribution is. It's a theory that says, well, a just distribution is that as long as you're not violating certain kind of narrow rules, a lot of libertarians would talk about the non-aggression principle, which is a can of worms worth its own debunk at some later date. But if you're not violating some rule like that, then whatever people happen to have ended up with in this market process is what they're morally entitled to. And I'd say that what we should really say about that is that that's just a wildly implausible theory of just distribution. That if you just happen to be born into one social class, that means that you're morally entitled to have all these things that people who happen to be born into a different social class are not, which is really implausible for reasons very similar to the reasons why almost all of us in the 21st century think that it's implausible that a particular person has a right to be king and rule over everybody else because they happen to have been born into the royal family rather than happening to be born in another family. And I guess the last point that I would make about this is that people who really push this taxation is theft idea, that it's wrong because it's theft, that's really, so it's coercive, So if we really care about about freedom and liberty from coercion. We shouldn't like redistributive taxation. We certainly shouldn't like nationalizing or expropriating things. That instead of just saying, well, we care about other things more, I think that a much better left-wing response is to say, you guys have a really bad theory of what freedom is. That substantive freedom is not like something that should be defined in terms of property rights. I think a much more plausible account of freedom, and the reason why most people care about freedom, is that freedom is substantive ability to conduct your life as you choose.
Right.
So, if you have redistributive taxation, for example, that allows people, if for one of the things that pays for is healthcare, or one of the things that pays for is free college, like Bernie Sanders is talking about, then that means that people are a little bit less subject to the domination of those who have more money, because you don't have to worry, oh, wait a second, if I piss off my boss, if I don't do every little thing he says with a smile on my face, then that means I'll lose my job. If I lose my job, I lose my health insurance, I lose my kids' health insurance, I can't afford to pay for my kids to go to college. And so I'd say that in terms of the reason why any human being with recognizable moral values would care about freedom, I think that kind of substantive view of freedom, that sort of view of freedom as freedom from domination, makes a lot more sense than freedom as property rights, which is the view that is being assumed when libertarians and conservatives say that taxation is theft.
Not to mention the fact conservatives are incredibly racist.
Yeah.
Just wanted to button that segment.
I'm not sure about the immediate relevance, but it ends to that.
Ben Burgis, the book is Give Them an Argument, Logic for the Left. That was actually awesome and really helpful as all. And, of course, look up and subscribe to Zero Books, all of those videos that Ben is doing and Doug is doing. I will just say really briefly, my book is getting a lot closer. And I'm going to start doing a series of streams for this channel that sort of start to outline the arguments of it.
Hello.
That's the name of it.
Nice.
Hello. Stop embarrassing yourself by reading the dark web. Hello. This is fucking embarrassing. Ben Burgis, Give Them an Argument, Logic for the Left, TMBS crew, professor at Rutgers University. Thanks so much, man. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you so much for having me on.
All right. Thanks, brother. All right.
I don't know. I'm just making.
One time we had Bree on and we just kept using that sound effect.
That was why. That's why I have it on this.
And again. I think we had like Jake Flores. I think we literally had like Bree being like, well, I'm not a constitutional attorney, but I can venture a guess. And then Jake was like, yeah, so anyways, I was drinking a 40 and I was drinking a Colt 45 and yeah, there was these guys, I guess, killed a goat around the corner. So that was a little weird. And then these ice guys showed up. And by the way, oh, you know what? I forgot. This is a while ago, but I had a very good conversation on Pod Damn America with him. You've just watched a Michael Brooks show video, and you can watch all of our full main live shows every Tuesday night at around 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and subscribe to get all of the clips you want. We're covering the globe. We're focusing on international relations, the intellectual dark web. We're having fun. We're doing deep dives with a lot of amazing guests. Of course, become a patron for the whole thing at patreon.com/TMBS, or subscribe to this YouTube channel and help us keep growing and get that content out there. Subscribe below.